Have you ever stopped to think about your body's hidden genius? I mean, there's this incredible, fully automatic operating system that's running 24/7 just to keep you alive and perfectly balanced no matter what's going on around you.
Seriously, think about it. You can walk out of a warm room into the freezing cold. You can go from totally relaxed to suddenly stressed out. You can be fast asleep one minute and sprinting for the bus the next. And yet, somehow, on the inside, everything stays remarkably stable. So how on earth does your body pull that off?
Well, the answer to that question is one of the most fundamental ideas in all of biology. It's not a thing, it's a process, a constant, dynamic balancing act that's happening inside you every single second of your life.
And that balancing act has a name: homeostasis. It's all about keeping your internal world stable. So things like your body temperature, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, they all have to stay within this very, very narrow, safe zone, even when the outside world is going completely haywire.
Now, you might hear stable and think that homeostasis means your body is just static or unchanging, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is it's an incredibly active process. It's a nonstop series of tiny adjustments, all designed to keep things on an even keel.
So how does your body manage all this? It actually comes down to a pretty simple but totally brilliant system with three key players: a receptor, which senses that something has changed, a control center, which figures out what to do about it, and an effector, which actually carries out the order. Let's break down how this incredible trio works together. This is your body's personal automatic control system. It's like a computer program that's always running in the background, making sure everything is okay, without you ever having to think about it.
And the sequence of this program is always the same. First, there's a stimulus. That's the change. Second, a receptor detects it. Third, the control center, we're usually talking about your brain here, processes the info and decides on a plan. And finally, an effector, like one of your muscles or glands, actually does the thing.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine you get cold. That's the stimulus. Receptors in your skin scream, "Hey, it's cold in here," and send that message to your brain, which is the control center. Your brain immediately tells your muscles, the effectors, to start shivering, which generates heat. It's simple, it's effective, and it's all completely automatic. This whole process is governed by something called negative feedback. Now, don't let the name fool you. Negative is a good thing here. It just means the response negates or cancels out the original problem. Your shivering warms you up, which turns off the "I'm cold" signal. It's exactly like a thermostat in your house that shuts off the heat once it gets warm enough. It prevents the system from going too far.
Okay, so we've seen how the control system works. But what's the actual hardware running this whole show? Well, that would be your nervous system. So let's take a look at how it's all organized.
This chart here basically gives us the roadmap. At the very top, you have the entire nervous system. And right away, you can see it splits into two major divisions that are constantly talking to each other to manage, well, everything. And those two main branches are the central and the peripheral nervous systems. The central nervous system, or CNS, is your command center. That's the brain and the spinal cord, making all the big decisions. And the peripheral nervous system, or PNS, is the huge network of nerves that act like the communication lines, sending messages from the body to the command center and then sending orders back out. But it gets even cooler. That PNS network is split again. You have the somatic system, which handles all the stuff you consciously control, like deciding to pick up a pen. And then you have the autonomic system. And this part is just fascinating. It handles everything else, all the involuntary things, like your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion, all the stuff that keeps you alive without you ever giving it a second thought. So we have the system map. But what about the actual wires that are carrying all these messages? Let's zoom in one more level, down to the fundamental building block of this entire network, the neuron.
This is it. A neuron is a cell that's totally unique in your body. It isn't designed to store energy or provide structure. It's basically a living wire, perfectly engineered for one job and one job only: high-speed communication.
And information flows through this wire in a very strict one-way direction. The dendrites are like the antennas, catching the incoming signals. The cell body adds them all up, and if the signal is strong enough, the long axon fires that signal away, where the axon terminals pass the message on to the next cell in the chain.
So, how can these signals travel so incredibly fast? The secret is this fatty coating you see here, called the myelin sheath. It acts as an insulator, but with this really clever trick. The electrical signal doesn't flow smoothly. It literally jumps from one gap to the next, like a horse clearing hurdles. This makes the signal unbelievably fast. We're talking up to 365 feet per second.
All right, so we have the system and we have the wires. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, what exactly is the signal? Let's look at the actual spark of communication that brings this entire network to life. Before a neuron can fire, it has to be primed and ready. This is called its resting potential. When it's just sitting there, waiting, the inside of the cell is kept negatively charged compared to the outside. It's essentially a tiny, loaded battery, holding on to potential energy, just waiting for a trigger.
And here is that trigger, the action potential. It is a lightning-fast 3-step electrical wave. A stimulus causes gates to open and sodium ions rush in, which flips the charge from negative to positive. That's depolarization. And immediately after, other gates open and potassium ions rush out, resetting the charge back to negative. That's repolarization. This tiny wave of electricity is the nerve impulse, and it zips down the axon.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. Every single message in your nervous system, from feeling a gentle touch to the complex thought of a math problem, is sent using this exact combination of rapid electrical sparks inside the neurons and tiny chemical handoffs between them.
And that leaves us with a pretty wild thought to end on. Every memory you cherish, every idea you've ever had, every single emotion you feel, at its most basic level, is just a specific pattern of these microscopic electrical sparks firing in your brain. So what does that really mean for who and what you truly are?